welcome back to the IWAR Network TUBECAST. I'm your host, Alex G., your NWL Commissioner. With me, as always, is Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm Dandy.
Dandy, like El Dandy.
Dapper Dandy.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Tonight's topic is commissioners. How do you become one? What are some of the roles and responsibilities? Just an overall introduction to what commissioners do, and perhaps if you're interested to be being a commissioner someday, this can get you started. So, Matt, tell us about some of the roles and responsibilities of being a league commissioner.
All right. So the first step and the most important job, really, as far as IWA is concerned, is that you stimulate activity. We've had many a commissioner over the year that did some fantastic work, but it fell on deaf ears, so to speak, and they gave up after a while. You want to make sure that as a commissioner, you bring some energy to your league, and that your league is sort of a reflection of what the kind of game you like to play.
All right, fantastic. Now, for me personally, I started it as the NWL League Commissioner about 2 years ago, and it that opportunity kind of just fell into my lap. Wasn't really looking for it, but I just started doing stuff, and I kind of just fell into it. So, content is key. I always feel in terms of commissioner, engagement is key. I receive personally every 3 weeks about 10 to 15 emails from different players. There's some players that I do engage with on almost a daily basis. It's going over character stuff, feuds, advice in terms of strategy. So I think the one thing that everyone has to understand about being a commissioner is the amount of commitment that is required to be in this position. You're going to be asking a lot of questions, and some of them may be silly and some of them may be not. It's very important that you have an understanding of kind of how to manage the managers or manage personnel, so to speak. Coming from a management background myself, there's ways to talk to people appropriately. There's ways to make sure that they're, they stay engaged, that they're not frustrated. And, not for nothing, as a commissioner, you do work for the players to make sure they have a great time what you're doing. And essentially, to use Dungeons and Dragons kind of metaphor, you are the dungeon master, essentially,
right.
Kind of setting the guidelines, setting the rules for us. And we can get into this a little bit more. We're just players, just like you. We don't get any preferential treatment. We certainly don't get paid. We are not paid employees of the IWA. I know some people out there may think that, but we are not. We're players just like you, who wants to do a little extra to make sure that everyone's having a great time.
Yeah, I look back when I first came to the game. I was in the CCL in 1987, and it was a fun league. We actually had a lot of really good players in it. But one of the things I did was I decided to check out like the best leagues. So I sent the IWA $5, and I send me the 5 best bulletins you have. And they sent me the GML, the ASL, the BRL, the PPL, and I forgot the other one now. It was like not as good as the other 4. And the GML had an amazing commissioner report. And I actually got that issue. I got was their year-end awards issue. And it laid out like what happened the previous year, the feuds, who won what awards. And what was kind of sad was I got this bulletin as the guys in the game that were playing it were kind of leaving the game. So I kind of saw the last little gasp of like the initial golden age, And it was Richard Farrell was one of the commissioners. Like it was a team of people that wrote together. Alex Dallas. They wrote this elaborate feud. There was, Power Team USA and the Dallas Dynasty, and that stuff alone was the basis for what gave me the idea to become a commissioner. So I took what they kind of did and applied some of that in a small way to the CCL. I also took over the BRL commissioner spot. So I was doing the CCL and the BRL. And what's funny is I brought a lot of the CCL guys over to the BRL once the CCL closed. Because back then they had much different standards on how leagues close or not. But what I started realizing was how much work goes into it, because you really can do as much or as little as you want. I've seen reports that are just a few rankings and a couple of contests, if that, and that's it, like a one-page report. And just to be honest here, you can do an excellent one-page report. It's about what you do with that one page, as opposed to maybe doing 20 pages, as we do with the IWAR, which is a combination collaborative effort. But as I went along in the years, you learn. You learn from your mistakes. And I think what's good is that we're here doing this to help people say, okay, well, here's some mistakes you might run into. But again, like you said earlier, we're not employees. So don't send us your name changes. Don't send us your matches. Don't send us your trash talk. You can. We don't mind seeing your trash talk, but we don't put it in the bulletins.
They never send us any money though. You notice that? They never send us
Right.
any money.
That's right. No one sent us a credit card number, which is fine. But I think it's, the evolution of the game is sort of funny because it went through, like, if you want to call it the golden era, the early years, and then like a silver age was like the MRL, because the MRL was kind of a perfect storm of, you had some fantastic minds like Brandon Bailey, Jim Gabbard. I'm not gonna name all the guys, but just the MRL was a Middle Atlantic Region League, which was a throwback league. And you see some of those nowadays, and they're just not quite the same. And the thing that's funny is you go throwback league. Well, the throwback league in the 2000s was back for the 80s. Well, now that's like 30 some odd years ago. And that's the thing too, is like you can get to consider your pool of players. So who is your audience?
Right.
So for example, if you have a league and there's, let's say, 5 to 10 players, well, what kind of league do they want to play in? Are you offering them something fun? So when we say, like, have an idea for what you want to do with your league, how you want to present it, what is the theme? Is there a certain genre? We've seen leagues like throwback leagues where it's like, an ECW league and everyone uses names based off ECW wrestlers or NWA wrestlers or WWF wrestlers, or, leagues that are superheroes, leagues that are professional athletes. There's the UWL. You're in that one, right?
I am.
Okay, you want to explain the UWL? The players might not know that.
So the unknown wrestler league is essentially, everyone in the league is masked, so you don't know who anyone is. So essentially, it's like a survivor type of game where every cycle the league champion gets to eliminate someone along with the five lowest ranked wrestlers. So essentially, as the cycles progress, the league gets smaller and smaller until we get to the end. And I'm not sure how many cycles it finishes because I didn't make it that far because I was eliminated last time I played, but I'm doing pretty well this time. So at the end, I believe you do get a championship belt if you do end up winning it, I believe, but don't quote me on that. You also get some prizes and what have you, and it's a good fun league. In addition, your wins, not your losses, but just your wins, gets transferred over to your wrestler along with any kind of imaginary money and stars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's a good way to add some extra wins to your wrestler and get some extra stars to kind of beef up your stats and your records. So it's a fun league. I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot of trash talk, although there's a little bit. But it's a good way to kind of work on your strategy. And that's the way I look at it. It's a way for me to really work on my strategy without the kind of the trash talk aspect of it, because there's no reason to trash talk because my wrestler is masked.
Right.
So it's a fun league overall, and I didn't do it last time. I did do it the time before, and they run this every year. So again, it's a little gimmick, a little contest, and and it's fun, and you get to check out another league's holds because well, especially if you're in gold, because I think it's in bronze right now. So every time they do it, they change leagues. So
Really?
say
No.
change feds, yeah. So I think last time it was in iron, and the time before that it was in jade. So it does change quite a bit, and it's pretty sweet. And then as a rookie player, I went into it when I was in the NWL originally. You get to kind of test your your skills against guys that are there's a lot of veterans in there obviously, and
Yeah.
the guys with a lot of guys with big rosters, and some of the strategy that goes along with that is that if you eliminate someone, they may have more than one wrestler in there, so they may go looking for you and eliminate you. So you got to be very, very careful.
Right. And I think that's the thing, like, an idea of a league with a particular style. Like, this league's usually around about, once a year for a short time, then it's gone. And I think,
it's a time limit league, so which is really interesting. In the future, they may want to consider doing more of those kind of time limit types leagues. Like, okay,
yeah.
you have 12 cycles, and then the league's done, and then it fades away.
Right. And I think, like, with commissioners, you're trying to offer up some kind of novel approach that people are going to enjoy playing. I think there's certain aspects of the game that have been shortchanged or have not been, like a disservice to the customers. Like, no one's really built a league that's built for big roster stables.
Yeah.
Every so often someone tries to do it, but the problem you run into is that the big roster players generally don't get involved in leagues with, commissioners that run leagues that are based off creative trash talk.
Right.
And it's not to say that they don't. I'm just going, no, there's a player, I do that, and that's fine. There's guys that are the exception to the rule. I have years of experience here chiming in saying I've seen many a commissioner who did phenomenal work. IWA Flip did fantastic artwork and efforts, like multi-page reports, and he made these like Caliente Lucha and the Extraordinary Power Leagues, like sort of like Lucha Libre leagues.
Yes.
This was before Lucha Underground, and I tried to help out, but it was just flood city. And what happens is, as a commissioner, one of the biggest decisions you have to make. So we're going to go into the mechanics of being a commissioner here. One of the decisions you make that's going to really decide how your league does is if you're either going to or not going to have a roster limit. So what a roster limit means is if there's no roster limit, any player can come in with as many wrestlers as they want. And they can have, 2 wrestlers or 20. Now, where it gets difficult is if you want what we call a level playing field, then you want to have everyone have the same opportunity. So you want to have, let's say, a 6 wrestler roster limit, which is pretty popular because it gives you a chance to have 2 6-man teams or 3 tag teams or 6 single wrestlers. You have a lot of combinations there. Some leagues, like the LWL, the Lone Wolf League, has a 1 roster limit. So you have 1 wrestler only. Makes it very difficult, but it also makes it a lot of fun. It's a challenge that way. When you make your roster limit, what you're trying to do is set up a even playing field. Now, the counter argument you hear from people is, well, that's not fair. You're affecting my way I want to play. Well, the truth of it is that if they don't want to play in your league, they don't have to. And most of the time when they do play anyways, they're doing it in spite of you. And that's a whole other can of worms we don't get into.
Yeah.
But just know that you're not, one thing is you're putting this work in out of your own free will. Like, you're not being paid for this. There's only one way commissioners get compensated, and they will give you occasionally 5 to 10 free matches depending on the activity of your league. And I can tell you, like in the BRL, I get 10 free matches a cycle. Commissioner, I use those 10 matches to cover matches for the commissioner's report. So I could use them for myself and just, cover my matches for like tag title or whatever, But what I like to do is use those matches to help propel the storylines and activity, and that way it's keeping things a little more fun. So with a roster limit, it's a big decision to make. And what happens a lot, one of the traps that happens is someone will say, well, I want to get people in my league. I want my league to be active, because they confuse activity for success. All right. So what I mean by that is that, your league might have 50 cards, but no trash talk, or like one people submitting trash talk, nothing else in your report. And if that's enough for you, that's fine. But if it's not, you want to consider, if you want to have a roster limit, why are you doing it? Are you doing it to keep an even playing field, or is it to keep people out? I always say it's an even playing field. Anyone can play in the BRL. Anyone can play in the IWL or CWL. There are certain limits in there, but the big thing to decide is if you want a roster limit, you might not get a ton of players at first. You got to work harder to recruit.
Yeah,
and that's
definitely.
one thing. You got to realize recruit. It's very important to do that. So decide early on if you're going to have a roster limit or not.
And I think, if you're going to be commissioner of a new league, or you're taking one over, reach out to the other commissioners. I think that's super important to see, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? Because they can kind of guide you on where to go, and kind of not fall into the commissioner rookie mistakes you might fall into. And not for nothing, you may not get any reactions from your first couple of reports, or it might be a while until you kind of get the league the way you want it. So again, I think the patience is going to be the key on there, just being consistent, making sure that every month you come out with a quality report, and you're reading all the results, you're going through all the trash talk, and you're kind of basing your decisions off of that. And kind of, you want to have your style, your league have a certain kind of style and certain flavor. But if your managers in that league doesn't really want to go in that direction, you're kind of at the mercy of the players at that point. You got to make sure that what you're doing is okay with the players in your league, because you don't want them to leave.
Right. And that's the thing too, when it comes to communicating with other commissioners, there were commissioners that have written, expressed interest in doing it to me, and they've gone to become commissioners. And I always say, just be aware that if you want to have a league that's like the BRL or like the LWL or, ECL, that's brimming with action and activity, that's fine. But again, one of the decisions people make sometimes is no roster limits, and they get 80 active wrestlers. It's great. But you get that lull of less trash talk. So decide what kind of league you want to have. Because one thing is, you can do a league with big roster players. If you want to follow the stats and the numbers and really, really, follow everything that's going on, fine. But ask yourself, the work you're doing, is it something people want to see anyways? Yeah. I was in one league where he had this report which was phenomenal with numbers. I mean, he broke down people's strat values. He broke down averages. But it was, I mean, those were great things, but they weren't my only cup of tea because everything else was kind of like so-so. And I think as a player, you want to play where you'll enjoy. So as a commissioner, you want to commission a league that you will enjoy playing in because let's face it, you're a player, bottom line at the end of the day. Once you figure out your establishing factors, you can start building off that. So, okay, what kind of theme you're going to have? You're going to have a roster limit. Okay, are you going to have a commissionership? Now, here's one thing to keep in mind as well, the genre of commissioner. So, for example, one thing I always suggest people to do is create a moniker, a pseudonym, also known as. Don't use your real name.
Yes.
And I would make an email address up with that name, so you have a separate email for that. For players that come in and want to be part can actually, go to that email as opposed to you. And the reason I bring that up is there are some people that take this game very, very seriously and get all kinds of butt hurt over, when situations don't go their way. You will have players come in and try to tell you how to run your report, try to tell you how to do things in their favor. And really, at the end of the day, you answer to yourself. You want to get players involved, you want to keep them happy and have a good time, and that's fine. But you don't want to sacrifice your report for a few players and let everyone else lose out. So the genre is important, the roster is important, but the commissioner spot is important because are you making, for example, to use wrestling terms, are you making the heel boss, Vince McMahon character that's going to come out and go, I'm in charge and you're all suffering, which, don't get me wrong, it's a formula that's worked for, almost 20 years now. But that's been around for 20 years. What can you do to bring something new to the process? Is your character just a figurehead that just gives out the news? That's fine too. However you want to present it, and that's the next step we want to talk about is the presentation aspect of it. How are you going to deliver your report?
I think in terms of overall presentation, you want to have it to be easy to read. You don't want to cram a whole lot of stuff in it. You don't want people to be confused or not know what's going on. But you want it to be easy to read. You want it to be kind of quick and to the point. And you want it to kind of look cool. You want people to be excited about it. I do 2 pages for the NWL. And if you notice, those look completely different than anything else that's in the IWA ringside. I think all our reports actually look different. So they're not, if you're looking for the NWL report, you'll find it pretty easily because it's so, it's kind of memorable. So you guys know what you're looking for. And then there's, I use the boxes. So there's boxes for, Uncle Ivan's tips, and then Samantha Sophie's roster rundown, and then I have a box for the tournament, the National Invitational Tournament for the National Championship. And I even have pictures of the images. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but look at it next time. There's actually images of the wrestlers that I've received images from, kind of as the border of the report as well, so people get an idea of what who everyone is. So it's almost like I remember back in the day, I used to see these things for WWF. They used to have the stars with the pictures in it, and they'll tell you who everyone is on the roster. That's essentially what I'm doing, a very similar concept to that. So I think the overall presentation of the NWL is something that especially for newer players, which most of you are at this point if you're listening to us. Maybe there's some veterans listening to this as well. Again, I try to make it as simple as possible. Dumbing it down to a degree, I don't want to use the word dumbing it down, but for this case, if you're a new player who just literally walked in the door, can they understand the report? And with a lot of people who this is the first thing they're seeing is the report and the NWL main event and some of that stuff. Is it easy to read? That being said, you have to be consistent and get those out every single month, because especially for me as the NWL commissioner, if I miss a month, someone's getting shortchanged because they just came in the door.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the thing about putting the work in. Is how much work you want to do. If you're going to do a 1-page report, well, that's fine. That's totally fine. But, are you putting an action-packed report together, or is it going to be something simple? And again, don't feel pressured to compete with the bigger ones. Let yourself have some space and time to grow. Start with 1 page and then build on it. If you need 4 pages to do your report, if that's needed, fine. But don't do 4 pages and think to yourself, all right, I got a page and a half. How am I going to fill the rest of these pages?
I think one of the things, too, that might be underestimated, too, is asking for help. I know in the NWO, I receive a whole bunch of help from a lot of different people. It would be, Mike Swanson, who helps me write the NWO main event matches. David Saylor, who also wrote matches for us. And then there's Lewis, who also writes matches for us as well. I bounce a lot of ideas off those guys, too. So it would be, Steven or Carl and Mike. I talk to them almost every day at this point, and I do bounce a lot of my ideas off of them and kind of just see what I'm thinking and see if they like it, because they are players who are active in the game. And if they dig it, I think everyone else will dig it as well.
Right. And that's the thing too, is don't be afraid to take chances. Sometimes, you watch certain shows, you have certain types of action, and you think, okay, well, go over, try it. And if not, change gears. You want to do too is when you're creating a commissioner's report, like I said, create persona to be your character, if you will. Don't be afraid to create referees, ring announcers, interviewers. I made Dapper Dan D. He was an old, when I was a teenager or even younger, he had a wrestling superstars dice game, and we had Dapper Dan D here. It was just like a joke we'd do as the guy, like I'd talk to my friend and be like, well, Mr. Wrestling 2, you have a huge match tonight. What are you gonna do? Lay out these softball, meatball down the middle of the plate questions that give wrestlers a chance to respond. I remember when I was doing this show in Lowell, well, it was Lowell, New England, in the area. This guy had me do interviews for him as a wrestling thing. And I would give these guys these super softball questions like, tonight you're fighting the Mangler. What does this match mean to you? And what will it mean to your career if you win? And just right down the middle of the plate. Well, as a commissioner, you want to get players involved. Put that email out there. Ask players if they want to get involved as part of the team or submit matches or whatever it may be. The more involvement you get, the better it's going to be. And that's the thing overall, is that great reports usually mean multiple people getting involved, whether it's them sending you articles or they just submit trash talk, they carry the angles, because the more players give you, the more we can give back. It's hard to write a report in a dead league. I actually seen a few players that would talk about wanting to have 8 different wrestlers and do all these different gimmicks. And I always thought to myself, I think the perfect league for players like that is to go to a flooded league and write every character. The flooders don't care because, they don't really care what you say about the character. They're not there for the creative aspect. So go nuts. It'll be funny, something different to enjoy. But I think just when it comes to establishing the mood of the league, if you want to put a tag team league together, okay, that's fine. A long time ago, they had a tag team league. They won't do them now. We've actually approached them about that. But what happens is this. If you sit there and say, I want to take over take over an existing league, which is actually very easy to do, because that way we'll look at it and go, okay, here's a league that's only got about 2 or 3 players in it with 10 wrestlers. The league's barely surviving with 12 cards a cycle. This commissioner could come in and drive the action up, and all of a sudden we have 30 cards and 7 active players. And if you do the math on here, the minimum you can spend in IWA is $5 per league per cycle. So you go, well, if I went from 2 players, that's $10 minimum, to 7 players, that's $35 being generated. Who's winning out here? The IWA. And the more activity you drive, the better they'll give you prizes. We'll get to prizes and incentives and contests later. But what we're saying is, you want to create something new and different. So if you want to start from scratch, it's going to be a little bit harder. So for example, if you take over an existing league, something players will do sometimes is called rebranding. And what they do is they take, like, Caliente Lucha League became the Global Wrestling League. Now, most players don't really give a hoot about the wrestling initials to a league, because, some leagues it does, because like the ASL's been around forever, the BRL's been around forever. If you want to change the name of a really old league, they probably would a little more resistance, but newer leagues, not as big a deal. It's just when you think about it, well, if you start a brand new league from scratch, you've got to get, first of all, 10 players to commit to playing. Now, that doesn't sound like very much. That's actually a lot of players for a new league. And you have to also get, like Alex was saying, the commitment by the commissioner. It takes a lot to put that together, and the players are expecting to see this kind of activity. If they join and say they play, that's fine. But you got to get 10 to start. So that's a big bar to jump for. So I would say, think about what kind of league you want to create. If it's going to be a current league, you're going to take over one, or you're going to either create a new league. You've got to put the work in to generate the interest in the league to then fill the league.
So Matt, let me ask you a question. How many man hours do you think you put in on a cycle by cycle basis?
Well, I've got it down to a system now.
Okay.
It used to be, I'd say probably I'm thinking do the math on the hours.
Yeah.
I'd say probably 15 to 20 hours or more, maybe 4 years ago, when I had, when I got laid off from work. Obviously I had some free time, so I'd spend a little more time doing things. But now I've got it down to a system. So for example, one of the best things you can do is make yourself a checklist and just know what you have to do. So I know when the results come in and the IWA sends me the email with the results, I go through and I copy and paste the actual results into a notepad file that I can then use to, find the results with the find feature. And what that lets me do is find the results quickly, figure out what tournament matches have been set, and then when I go through and figure all that out, now remember, I'm only seeing the results. I haven't seen the trash talk. I haven't seen, anybody's sneak attacks or anything else. Hours wise, I'm just trying to get as much done as I can early. So what I try to do is figure out what the next tournament matches are going to be. I write them all down. I put them in the computer. I have an Excel spreadsheet. One thing, kind of side note here, is to save yourself time, use Excel spreadsheet or a version of that. Use Microsoft PowerPoint or Page Builder, whatever will let you make an easy transition from month to month. Also, you can go online, Cute PDF Maker. You can Google Cute PDF. Is a great way to make PDFs of your files for free. You're saving yourself time. So right now, I've got the IWAR list down, and not including my own trash talk and strategy picking, just commission report stuff here. I'd probably say about 10 hours, maybe 6 to 10 hours, depending. And I'm saying 6 to 10 hours, but I'm also watching TV and I'm also checking my email. So it's not like I'm sitting here at a desk writing it. If I just sit down and do a report in like one day, I can probably bang it out.
Yeah, I think I got it down for me. It's around about 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Depending. It also depends how long the main event is.
Yep.
But my biggest problem and the one things I have to work on is getting stuff done early, because I literally send stuff in at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning, being up the night before, going straight through. So wait till the last minute, and then I'm doing it overnight straight through, trying to get everything finished and submitted and ready to go. So, but I think keeping it simple, having a template, I use Publisher myself. And basically, all I do is I have the template, leave it up, and then I add my stuff in, and then I, save the template, and then next month do the same thing over and over again. It cuts down on a lot of time.
Yeah, it really does. And I can't stress enough. If you know what you have to do, production-wise, you save yourself so much time because you can just, bang short things off your list. I know what the next IWAR title match is, the next IWAR tag title match is, any events that are going on, tournaments. That's all done like the first night I get the report. So I try to bang it out that night or the next morning or whatever it may be. Creatively wise, like, for example, the IWAR, we have an IWAR news page and then a BRL news page. Well, the IWAR news page is more driven by the IWAR wide events. So I try to include things like events, world title defenses, a fun little quirky thing here or there. The BRL page is driven by the players and the trash talk they send in. So when I get the bulletin, I read through it, I make notes, and then I start feeding it into the BRL page, and again, it kind of writes itself. I'm just reflecting what the league did. Yep. So the more you get involved from players, the easier it is to be a commissioner.
Awesome. Now tell me how some of the tournaments and contests, how can that kind of stimulate activity in the league?
Sure. One of the things is, when it comes to contests and activity events, if you will, is the stimulation is, what is the prize? Is the prize purely just player involvement? So they're playing to get a chance to just be the fact that, like, Willowick Classic is 5 free matches for a rookie player in the NWL. We take all 16 new NWL players, we put them in this Willowick Classic, and they end up winning 5 free matches and they get a shot at the Rising Star champion. Now, it's not that huge a prize, but it's just fun, it's involvement, it's bragging rights. There are bigger contests, like you want to talk about, like, for example, we have the Johnny B Cup coming up. We have the Murano Memorial going on right now. We have the Ladder Match Battle Royal. We have all these things going on. And, like, you can go to, like, the CWL has the 4 corners going on. We've got the Beantown Brawl for NWL coming up. The IWL is working on a really friggin' awesome thing called Feast or Famine. So it's each league wants to offer prizes and contests. Now, the thing is, you as a commissioner are responsible for running these events. And one thing you might say to yourself is, well, I'm going to plug in these results and tell people to have so-and-so face so-and-so. Do yourself a favor and just either A, cover the event matches yourself, or B, have a fee for these events and use that fee to cover the matches.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about the fee is it's a deterrent for some players. Somebody's like, oh, I don't want to pay $1 or $2 to be in this event. Like the Johnny B Cup is $3 to enter, but it also has the biggest prizes in the IWA. And I also get the winner a trophy every year. So it's just a little something extra,
That trophy is badass, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I will say this. When it comes to running events, the better you can stay on top of it and avoid errors. I mean, every so often we'll get a message from somebody saying, well, this got screwed up. Because occasionally, matches get played or things happen or something goes wrong. And we got to do our homework and dig through and figure out who beat who or who would have beaten who. One of the ways to save yourself some headaches is establish a tiebreaker. Every so often, wrestlers get together, they fight, and they have exact same total points earned. So they have a draw. It could be double count out, no contest, whatever. The really bottom line is neither guy beat the other. So what we do in a lot of our leagues is use the battle royal finish as the tiebreaker. I always go three ways. I go first, activity. The wrestler who's active stays. The one who goes inactive is out. That's an easy one. You look at activity. If they're there, great. If not, goodbye. The second one's the battle royal finish, how much money they earned. The longer the wrestlers in the battle royal, the more money they earn. So it's a simple way of going who had the better shot there. A great tiebreaker. The third tiebreaker, trash talk. It's just an easy way to see who's contributing to the league and really kind of giving a little more than everybody else. And it's a nice little nod to the people that give you the material that help you do your job. Now, your contests, you got to keep in mind, are they going to be short term, long term, whole year long? How long do you want to have these contests? Is your contest or event just to have fun? Is it to establish a league identity, a champion? And then you're going to the commissioner champions next. But with the contests and events, the prizes you offer, you have to clear through the IWA. So for example, if you want to give out 10 free matches, ask that everybody, hey, if we run this event and it's free, can I give out 5 free matches or 10 free matches? The IWA will probably say, sure, as long as your league's activity reflects a reason to give you those matches. Meaning that if your league is quiet and it's 10 cards and you're doing a report and no one seems to care, you're not going to get a lot to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I know we just came off the Rumble in the Bronx kind of contest,
Mm-hmm.
and the prize was ended up being 42 free matches, which is a lot. So they did a great job in terms of their participation in that. And the winner also gets a shot at the NWL National Championship as well. So which actually be running, what actually ran last cycle. So lots of cool prizes. Again, you want to be, you want to be on the lookout for those events. And I think overall, is you have to get feedback, and I think feedback is key to being a worthwhile commissioner.
Right.
So commissioner titles, how do you
Yes.
establish them? Why do we have them?
All right. So commissioner titles, why do we have them? Well, a commissioner title lets you kind of put a different spin on your league. So you can have a champion of your own, so to speak. Right now you have the belts determined by strategies. You could make things that maybe your championship is determined by something like trash talk or battle royal finish or some other way of determining your champion. It gives you a chance to have a little more say and power in how they are determined, who challenges for it. I'm in some leagues where every cycle the commissioner champion defends the title. Other leagues where they defend the title every 6 months, or actually no, every 6 cycles. It's not that fast. And then there's like leagues like the BRL, which uses a 3-match period, so it's a best of 3 match. So there's a way of determining the champion. Now you can determine the champion a few ways. You can have it be a battle royal. You could just say, hey, whoever wins the battle royal this month, they're now my national champion. You could have it be a tournament, which is very popular. Single elimination, just rank the guys, put them head to head, and let the best person win. Find other ways to do it too. It's up to you really, whatever you can think of for creative wise to do. I think in the end, the commissioner title will only be as valuable as the players chasing it. If no one's caring and like whatever, I don't care, then no one wants it. I've seen guys come in and win a commissioner's title, and they talk about it like it's Ric Flair's world title, and they and that's great. I've seen guys win a commissioner's title, and they don't say a peep about it. And I think as a commissioner, you want to have your title be valued. So one of the ways you get it valued is put prestige in it, either attach some free matches or some kind of perk. We do a thing, in the BRL called Money in the Bank, where we take the person eliminated from the battle royal first, every 4 cycles, goes into like a 4-person match, and whoever wins that 4-person match earns a Money in the Bank title shot at the league champion. It's not permanent. It's a 4-cycle window, so you got to do it pretty quick. But it's a way to like kind of put some spin on it, And I think in the game, whatever you can do to give your league the feel of being a little bit different or having some kind of specialness to it. In the BRL, we have the global championship, and the IWL is the heavyweight championship. The CWL is a continental championship, and the NWL has the national championship. those four leagues determine their champions and how they're defended different ways, but they're all fun to be involved with, and you can get involved in it. One of the easiest ways to get yourself in the title picture is challenge the champion and trash talk. Tell the commissioner you want a title shot. It's like any pro wrestler comes out and says, "I want a shot at the champion." Well, you're probably going to get acknowledged.
I think it's super important as the commissioner to make sure that you're going through each and every trash talk with the fine tooth comb, kind of have an overall understanding of your players and the wrestlers that they manage. And, if someone does shout out something, you have to have a response. So if someone's saying, I want the shot at the national championship, when I come down and do my next tournament, those people who mention it and their trash talk are ones I'm going to place in that tournament. So that's
Right.
what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for someone to hold the championship and not say anything, because that kind of devalues the championship a little bit, at least in my eyes. And I want someone who's going to be super active in trash talk, that's in feuds, and that's what I'm looking for in terms of people I want to hold, my commissioner championship. So when you're looking for those types of people, again, you don't want to, you want the results of the game to play out. Again, there's no way that we can cheat or we can make results happen that just because we want a certain result, we can't influence the results whatsoever. So again, it's going to be up to the player, but we
Right.
can definitely put people in positions to, get to the next level or become a champion in terms of the commissioner championships, especially if they do great trash talk. Now, if they have good trash talk and great strategies, that's a recipe for success, especially in the IWAR leagues.
Right. And one thing to keep in mind, a little side asterisk here, is when you see the commissioner's report, whether it's NWL, LWL, the IWAR, you're seeing a report written off of the results of the previous bulletin. So some people will say to us, "Well, I beat so and so this cycle. Why didn't I advance?" Well, you have to remind what we're writing about happened last cycle. That's one
Yes.
of the only things you can do is that you can't predict the future. So when you get the bulletin and you have that report in there, those notes, those commentaries, the matches, everything else, the title shots are all based off last cycle. So just keep that in mind is that, if you see a result and you're not sure, email us, ask a question. Commissioners are usually happy to hear from the players. So don't be
Definitely.
afraid to ask questions.
I mean, I created a whole IWAR network Facebook page so I can have intimate connections with the players and the entire IWAR, not just the NWL. It may have started
Right.
out as an NWL type of thing, but I talk to players from all leagues on that, and it's a great way not only to get your images to me. It's a great way to. There's a little trash talk that goes on there. It's a great way for me to get familiar with their wrestlers. So if you're looking into something a little bit more advanced, something like that, look into that as well. It would be a message board or a Facebook page, or what have you, to kind of get one-on-one interaction. Especially, I have a lot of newer players, so again, my interactions may be more than say an average league, just because they do have a lot of questions which I have to answer. So, but understand that you're going to be emailed and instant messaged all the time, and you got to make time for everyone because you want to make everyone feel valued. Because if they
Right.
don't feel valued, they're going to leave and go to another league.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is that when they approach you with questions and try to answer them as soon as you can or within a certain time frame. But to keep in mind too, commissioners, we're doing this for free. We all have lives, we work jobs, other things going on. We try to be timely, but every so often you get a poke from the other way. So and so let us know that they're waiting to hear back. Well, it's been like 6 hours. Give us a couple of days. If you don't hear in a few days, then email again and say, hey, just make sure. We'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. But again, when you have a lot of people all chiming in at once, or other things going on in your life, it can be difficult.
Now, if you're interested in becoming a commissioner or have additional questions for us, please let us know via the IWAR Network Facebook page, or you can email either of us. I will have our emails in the link below if you have any more additional questions. So to wrap this up, Matt, any final thoughts, any final shots to tell our maybe aspiring commissioners?
Sure. I would say number one, if you want to be a commissioner, talk to current commissioners, ask questions, and if you're thinking of starting a league up or creating a league, if you will, look into being a co-commissioner. Kind of understudy with somebody, see how the mechanics work of the actual workload. Unfortunately, over the years, you've seen a lot of people come along and say, I want to be a commissioner, and they try it out, and they give it up after 4 or 5 months, and they realize how much work goes into it, whether I'm talking about just the report or the recruiting the interactivity, all those things. Make sure you want to try it, but don't be afraid to give it, part of a team, get yourself involved, and then if you do want to create a commissioner spot for yourself, talk to the IWA. The IWA loves it when players take over leagues that are in slower federations to help rise up and give a player a better league to play in. That's what they want ultimately. So for you as the commissioner, decide what kind of league do I want to play in? What kind of league do I want to create? Do you want to create a certain atmosphere? Is it going to be a New Japan type league? Is it going to be an old Mid-South league? Is it going to be a league that's on planet Mars? What is it going to be? And then, build it up, really think it out. So when you go forward with this and you're selling this, don't forget, you got to recruit. When you want to build these leagues up, you got to recruit and sell players on your league idea. How is it going to be? Do they want to play? And ask yourself, would I play there? If you wouldn't play there, then keep working. But don't be afraid to try. But bottom line, make sure you have fun. That's the ultimate thing at the end. Don't do something you're not having fun with. When you stop having fun, when you lose your smile, it doesn't help anybody. So make sure you really want to do this and have fun.
All right. And I'll see you next time on the IWAR Network TubeCast.